Welcome back to Audio Bits. Today, we're diving into a book that's redefining how we look at our own obstacles. The Mountain is You by Brianna Wiest. Let's get into it. Have you ever looked at your own life and thought, why do I keep doing this to myself? You set the goal, you mean it, you feel it, and then somehow, quietly, without even realizing it, you find a reason to stop, to pull back, to shrink away from the very thing you said you wanted most. And the frustrating part isn't just that it happened, it's that it keeps happening. Like there's something in you, some invisible force that won't let you win. If you've felt that, you're not broken, you're not weak, you're not someone who just doesn't have enough willpower or discipline or drive. You're human, and what you're experiencing has a name. It's called self-sabotage. And according to Brianna Wiest in her deeply insightful book, The Mountain is You, understanding it, really understanding it, might be the most important work of your life. Welcome to AudioBit. I'm here to walk you through the core ideas of this book, not as a summary, but as a conversation, because this one deserves more than a list of takeaways. It deserves to be felt. So let's begin. Now, most of us think of self-sabotage as a flaw, a character defect, something wrong with us that other, more disciplined people somehow don't have. But here's what Wiest wants you to understand from the very first pages. Self-sabotage is not a sign that you are broken. It is a sign that there is a conflict between what you consciously want and what you unconsciously believe you deserve, or what you secretly believe is safe. Think about that for a moment. Two parts of you pulling in opposite directions. One part says, I want to be healthy, successful, loved, free. The other part says, but what if I get there and lose it? What if I fail in front of everyone? What if becoming that person means leaving behind everything I know? Self-sabotage is the mechanism your mind uses to protect you from outcomes it perceives as dangerous, even when those outcomes are exactly what your heart is reaching for. It's not weakness, it's a misfiring survival instinct. And the moment you stop seeing it as a character flaw and start seeing it as a signal, something shifts. But let's go a little deeper, because Wiest doesn't just name the problem, she asks the harder question, why do we do this? What need is actually being met when we sabotage ourselves? This is where the book becomes genuinely illuminating. Every self-destructive pattern, she argues, is secretly meeting a need. Staying in a relationship that isn't working, it might be meeting the need for familiarity, for a kind of pain you already know how to survive. Overworking until you collapse, it might be meeting the need to feel worthy, to earn your place in the world. Avoiding the project you most want to finish, it might be meeting the need to stay safe, because an unfinished dream can't fail. We are always trying to meet our needs. The problem isn't the need, the problem is the strategy. And until we identify the hidden need, until we look honestly at what that behavior is actually doing for us, no amount of willpower will make it stop, because you can't force yourself out of a pattern that's been quietly keeping you safe. This is where awareness becomes the first act of transformation. Now, here's where things get interesting, and honestly, where this book starts to feel less like self-help and more like a conversation you've been needing to have with yourself. Wiest spends a great deal of this book talking about emotions, not as problems to manage or moods to push through, but as information, as a guidance system that your deeper self is using to communicate with you. Discomfort, she says, is not your enemy, it's a messenger. Anxiety, sadness, anger, grief, these aren't signs that something has gone terribly wrong. They're signs that something matters, that something in you is unresolved, unexpressed, or misaligned. Think about the last time you felt a wave of unexplained anxiety before doing something you claimed to want. Most of us try to talk ourselves out of it, or we distract ourselves, scroll through our phones, eat something, watch something, anything to make the feeling stop. But what if instead you got curious about it? What if you asked, what is this trying to tell me? That shift from running away from your emotions to turning towards them is not small, it's everything. Because your feelings aren't obstacles to the life you want, they're the map. If this idea is sitting with you, and I have a feeling it might, we've explored this theme even further in another summary on Audiobook. It's there in the description whenever you're ready. No pressure at all, just there, waiting, like a good book on a rainy afternoon. So, you've recognized the pattern, you've identified the need it's meeting. You've started listening to your emotions rather than silencing them. Now what? This is where Wiest gets into the work. The actual, unglamorous, deeply necessary work of change. And she's clear about something that most self-help books quietly skip over. Real change is not a moment. It's not a breakthrough. It's not an epiphany that arrives one morning while you're sipping coffee and suddenly everything is different. Real change is a practice. It's a daily, sometimes tedious, sometimes uncomfortable process of choosing differently, over and over until the new choice becomes the natural one. She talks about the idea that we often wait for motivation to arrive before we take action. We tell ourselves, when I feel ready, I'll begin. But motivation, she explains, doesn't come before action. It comes because of action. The momentum builds as you move, not while you wait. There's also something she says that I keep coming back to. Healing is not linear. You will have days where you feel like you've gone backward, days where the old patterns reappear with startling clarity, like they never left. And those days are not proof of failure. They are part of the path. Every time you choose the new response over the habitual one, even slightly, even imperfectly, you are literally rewiring the way your mind works. You are building a new self, one decision at a time. And that, she says, is the most courageous thing a human being can do. So here's a question this book asks that most others don't. What kind of life are you actually building toward? Because a lot of us are working very hard, pushing, striving, achieving in the direction of a life we chose a long time ago. A life that might have made sense for who we were at 22, but maybe doesn't quite fit who we've become. We're running toward a version of success that was never really ours. And deep down, part of us knows it. Wiest calls this the difference between the life you think you should want and the life your truest self is actually calling you toward. And she argues, compellingly, that much of our self-sabotage isn't resistance to our goals. It's resistance to goals that were never aligned with who we really are. This is a tender idea because it asks us to be honest, maybe more honest than we're used to being about what actually matters to us, not what looks good. Not what our family expected, not what the version of us who was afraid of disapproval decided we should want, but what we, this version of us, right now, genuinely want our lives to feel like. That alignment between your outer life and your inner truth is what Wiest is really guiding you toward throughout this entire book. Not a perfect life, not an Instagram-worthy life, a life that feels like yours. And she is careful to say this is not a one-time discovery. It's an ongoing conversation with yourself, a willingness to keep asking, is this still true for me? Is this still mine? And now we arrive at the heart of it, the image that gives this book its title and its soul. The mountain, Wiest says, is you, not the circumstances, not the people who hurt you, not the economy or the timing or the bad luck. The mountain you have been trying to climb all along is the version of yourself that doesn't yet believe you deserve to reach the top. This isn't about blame, it's about power. Because if the obstacle is external, you're at the mercy of the world. But if the obstacle is internal, if it's a belief, a pattern, a fear you've been carrying since childhood, then you can work with it. You can change it. You are not powerless. The mountain was never something to defeat. It was something to understand. And in understanding it, in turning towards it with patience and honesty rather than frustration and force, you don't destroy it. You transform it. You transform yourself. That's what growth really looks like. Not the absence of struggle, but a different relationship with it. Before we close, if this summary opens something in you, Audiobook has a whole collection of books just like this one. Books that ask the quiet, important questions. Books that sit with you long after the listening ends. The self-improvement books is right there in the description. It's the kind of listening that changes how you see things, slowly and gently. So, here's what I want to leave you with. You are not someone who keeps failing at life. You are someone who has been carrying an old story about what you deserve, about what's safe, about who you're allowed to become. And that story has been running quietly in the background, shaping every choice, every fear, every moment you pulled back when you most wanted to leap forward. The work Brianna Wiest is inviting you into is not easy, but it is the most important work there is, because it's not about changing your circumstances, it's about changing your relationship with yourself. And that changes everything. So here is one thing you can do today, just one. The next time you notice yourself pulling away from something you want, a conversation, a risk, a beginning, pause. Don't judge it, don't push through it, just get curious. Ask gently, what am I protecting myself from right now? That one question, asked with honesty and without blame, is how the mountain begins to move. The summit isn't somewhere out there. It never was. It's been waiting inside you all along. If this resonated with someone in your life, share it with them. Sometimes the right words find us exactly when we need them. We'll be here with the next one on Audiobit.